Hello, good morning and welcome to Sports Sanctuary, turning on your screens this beautiful Tuesday morning to look at recent developments making rounds in the exciting world of sports. I am Mutebe David and I'm so delighted to return this beautiful Tuesday morning with a whole lot of conversations in the world of sports to look at this particular morning with excitement around the MPFL that is actually scheduled to resume tomorrow, the second stanza of the Nigeria Premier Football League. We'll also take a look at recent developments in the world of tennis, the world of basketball, with some franchise still trying to find their rhythm in the opening exchanges of the NBA season. We'll also look at the Africa Cup of Nations with semi-final games scheduled for later tomorrow. Who takes what? What's at stake? And what should we expect later tomorrow as well? Well, yesterday we also had the FA Cup game involving two top teams in the English Premier League. We'll tell you how it went. And of course, we'll also talk about the world of transfers. It is a January transfer window, so players are moving left, right and center. We'll talk about all of that on the show this beautiful morning. But before we look at all of these stories extensively, let's first of all bring you up to speed with big developments making rounds in the exciting world of sports. Welcome to the show. Our conversation starts from the world of tennis, where Thanasi Kokkinakis made a stunning comeback after a difficult 12 months with an emotional first-round victory over Sebastian Korda on Monday at the Adelaide International, playing his first singles match since 2025 Australian Open, after which he underwent a radical surgery on his pectoral muscle. Kokkinakis rallied to a 3-6, 6-3, 7-6 triumph at his hometown ATP 250 event. Kokkinakis appeared to be feeling pain in his shoulder and received treatment from the physio during the second set against Korda, but the 29-year-old pushed through to a thrilling 2-hour 26 win. The Adelaide crowd was vociferous throughout in its support for Kokkinakis, who lifted his only ATP Tour title at Memorial Drive in 2022. There was concern for the home hero in the second set when he wobbled after opening a 5-1 lead, and he later acknowledged that his singles comeback was not without cost. Awaiting the Australian in the second round will be 5th seed Valentin Vacherat. The Monaco star, who stunned the tennis world last October by winning the Rolex Shanghai Masters as a qualifier, overcame Mimoya Kekmanovic 7-6, 6-4. Away from that, the former Olympic champion, talking about Belinda Bencic, found herself 421st in the world ranking. The Olympic champion had dropped down after 11-month maternity break, in which she had daughter Bella. But after a solid 2025 and a superb start to the 2026 season, Belinda Bencic is now back inside the world top 10. She is the first woman to enter the top 10 in singles after giving birth since the great Serena Williams did so in 2019, 17 months after having daughter Olympia, after being named the most valuable player in the United Cup. Swiss teammate Sangwarinka said the side were living in Belinda's world. Her recent form means Bencic will be a contender for the title when the Australian Open begins on Sunday. To the world of boxing, where the Nigerian Boxing Federation has announced plans to conduct open trials for boxers as part of preparations for the selection of the national team for the 2026 Commonwealth Games. According to the Federation, the trials will be open to pugilists across all weight categories, with the date and venue to be announced when logistical arrangements are finalized. Vice President of the NBF, Honorable Omoloye Imadu, said the selection process would be transparent, credible, and merit-based, assuring athletes of equal opportunities to earn a place on the team. In Madrid further urged boxers and their coaches to intensify preparations ahead of the trials, stressing that only athletes who demonstrate both technical ability and mental readiness would be considered. To the world of football, where Alonso has left his position as Real Madrid manager after less than 8 months in charge, with his former Liverpool teammate Arbeloa taking over. The news comes a day after Alonso's Madrid were beaten 3-2 by Barcelona in the Supercopa de España final in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. Alonso, who spent 5 years with Real as a player, won the Bundesliga with Leverkusen in 2024 and replaced Carlo Ancelotti at the Bernabeu last summer. Alonso came under pressure before Christmas after a difficult run of just 2 wins in 8 games, including defeats to Liverpool, Celta Vigo, and Manchester City. But the team's form had improved since, with 5 victories before Sunday's Clasico loss. Arbeloa has been coaching the club's youth team since 2020, but has not managed the senior side before. The 42-year-old takes charge immediately and will be on the sidelines on Wednesday as Real visits second division Albacete in the Copa del Rey round of 16 tie. So talking football, Liverpool survived a moment of bizarre moments of madness from Dominic Szoboszlai to avoid an FA Cup shock to League One Barnsley with a sketchy 4-1 victory at Anfield. The Hungarian international showed a reckless arrogance with his attempted backheel inside his own 6-yard area, which presented Adam Phillips with the opportunity in front of the coup he would have dreamed of as a former Reds trainee and boyhood fan. He was so staggering was that the side was in complete control just 5 minutes before halftime, as Szoboszlai's sumptuous strike had been followed by another stunner from Jeremy Frimpong. It was all the encouragement the visitors, 17th in the 3rd tier, needed to push for the equalizer, and they continued to ask questions until substitute Florian Wirtz called them in the 84th minute. Hugo Ekitike slid home in added time to book a home tie with Brighton. This may have been an 11th match unbeaten, but like many of others, it was far from convincing. Well, that's all we have for in Sports Wrap-Up at this time. We take a very short break, and when we return, we'll have extensive conversation in the world of sports. Do stay with us.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to another exciting day. We talk about the best of stories and exciting stories in the world of sports. It is Sports Central, and my name is Blyden Rukem. The big men are here with me in the studio, and I'll get to the introductory part of it. But key conversation would be that Manchester United have reached a deal to appoint as interim boss. A shocking wave happened from yesterday. Xavi Alonso, also leaving Real Madrid, had a farewell for him at Real Madrid after that performance which lost to Barca at the Supercopa de España. And not so good. Not many people really thought it was going to happen, but it happened. Well, part of a conversation we'll have today, we'll get to X-ray some of the postulation that's taking place at the AFCON. What has been the highs and the lows moving to the semi-finals of it? What are the expectations moving forward? Can the Super Eagles go all the way to win it? Trust me, by tomorrow, big games taking place in the AFCON. We'll be talking about Senegal taking on Egypt and Nigeria against the host nation, Morocco. And in the course of it, I'll have a guest. But first, let's talk to the guys in the studio who are sitting on the table of greatness. Utuma David, funny to know. Utuma David, good morning. How are you today? So good to see you.
Well, I'm fine. It's so good to be here as well. I think dominating news would be about Real Madrid at the moment, and Xabi Alonso also mutually, consenting to the fact that both parties have to go separate ways after what many would term not so, successful, first few months of him being a Real Madrid manager. But definitely, many are also looking at the very fact that the man Arbeloa, does he have the experience to stay as an interim for the meantime? Well, we do not know, but I think the coming days would also confirm that.
Or probably become a permanent coach, depending on how he performs. You know, I can tell Madrid might turn around and say, well, you keep saying you've done well for the rest of the season. Fanisina, good morning, so good to see you.
Excited to be back. Just like ETS said, I think bulk of these big clubs, I was waiting for the first club to send the manager packing, and then it follows like a pack of dominoes. Now we've had Chelsea, Manchester United, and now Real Madrid. I can tell you for a fact that if any manager in the next 20 days failed to reach the standard, he would definitely be sent back in, because that card is already rolling.
Well, the card is already rolling for us, talking about it, and most often than not, I want to get to this time of the season, it seems like the second phase of it, and trust me, if not doing well, they can't continue with you. Well, the conversation starts for us, not from other sports that we use. It would be maybe a little hanky-panky. We're moving here and there, one way or the other, touching tennis, on the other hand, touching football and touching rugby and touching everything as my guest joins the conversation. He's popularly known as Mr. Rugby because of his exploits in the world of rugby. But today, Ntensa Williams joined the conversation to talk about multiplicity of things, even football and all of it, but generally sports. Mr. Ntensa Williams, Mr. Rugby, welcome to the show. So good to have you. Well, anticipating to hear from Mr. Rugby there. Well, Mr.
Hello.
Rugby, yeah, Mr. Rugby, good morning. So good to have you.
Hello, good morning. It's nice to be on Spectrum this morning in the new year. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year, exciting times ahead. Well, welcome to the show. Part of a conversation that's really making round, I know I spoke to you early hours of the morning, would be the AFCON and all the tradition, but in the course of the show, we'll also maybe get to end with a bit of rugby stories after the elections and all of that, but welcome to the show again. Let's begin a conversation, shall we? The talking point would be about AFCON as a Nigerian. I know you're Mr. Rugby, so many people would anticipate you to talk about rugby, but let's talk about AFCON because the Super Eagles are doing quite well. AFCON, we've seen the ups and downs. It's the first game for the Super Eagles of Nigeria, and not just about Nigeria, the rest of the teams, host nation, performances. There are many can point about officiating from a host nation and all of that. But for you, what has really stood out for you at this AFCON?
Well, first and foremost, I'd like to say big congratulations to the Super Eagles at the AFCON this year. They've actually done very well. For the first time in a long while, we are seeing a Super Eagles that is playing a well-coordinated game. They have a game plan, and they are all fitting into the puzzle. And you have a coach who is tinkering the team, and the players are actually playing alongside with his game plan. Now they've done so well, and they've gotten to the semi-finals, which will be by tomorrow against the host. Now I believe that we can go through to the finals and actually lift the cup for the fourth time. However, there are some issues which needs to be addressed as quickly as possible. For those of the Nigerian officials that are in the helms of affairs and those that are in FIFA and CAF, it's quite unfortunate that we are hearing that the referee that officiated the Moroccan quarterfinal match against Cameroon, which was very thorny, had issues, is being put to ref the Nigeria versus Morocco again. That's quite an anomaly. And the same way that Morocco managed to get that referee to substitute the person that was initially assigned to them, I think Nigeria should also try and get that done. The referee can actually do the first game instead of doing a Moroccan game in the quarterfinals and doing a Moroccan game in the semifinals. And probably, who knows, what else they're going to plan down for him. And I'm also being told that that's the same referee that did our finals between Cote d'Ivoire, the last Nations Cup. So for me, that's a thorny issue which should be addressed as quickly as possible, so that let everybody go onto that pitch knowing that it's going to be, strength for strength, tactics for tactics, and whoever carries the day, we good sportsmen about it. The other thing is the good relationship that has returned back to the Super Eagles after the Osimhen and Lukman issue, and also the Mwabali issues in the past. I am very happy that all that has been put behind them, and they are so happy as a united family and pushing forward to making history this time around. And the bottom line for me, Nigeria has to lift the AFCON 2025-2026.
All right, a bottom line for you, Nigeria has to lift the AFCON 2026, 2025-2026. We got to see how that pans out, Morocco being the biggest stumbling block. But let's talk about one key part of this. I don't know if you mentioned it, maybe I lost attention in it, but it would be the Congolese man that was raising the hand. We see similar situation, especially when DR Congo lost, and we had the Algerian player raise their hand and fall, sort of mocking the situation, Lumumba, in that regard. But we're talking about Akol Adams also showing some respect after scoring the goal for them. That could have been such an iconic moment for many Africans regarding the personality of the Congolese leader after many years, and he died, and being represented at some, the history being talked about at the AFCON.
For me, that was a good history, which the Congolese have actually brought on to the Nations Cup, because most of us probably wouldn't have known him as a Pan-Africanist, But from football, today everybody is knowing who he was and what he stood for. And this is Congolese celebrating their own. Nigerians, we should also have something like that to celebrate. We have some very credible statesmen who could be celebrated in like form. They actually made more histories, than him. So for me, I believe that was a very good one. I hear he's, in as much as the Congo Democratic Republic has been ousted from the competition, the organizers of the competition have seen a marketing value in what he has done, and they have actually made him to stay on, and they're signing some deals for him. So from nothing, we can actually, make something from it, and people can make a honest living, from this football event.
All right. Lastly, Tessa Williams versus rugby. Just have a bite on rugby, maybe in the next 1 minute, and then we'll go. What's really happening in the rugby world so far from a Nigeria's point of view, maybe a global point of view, and Nigeria's point of view at some point ahead, there were elections taking place. What are we expecting 2026 in the world of rugby?
Elections have taken place and people have been elected to run the affairs for the next 4 years. We look forward to them living up to the expectation. Like you know, rugby in the overall game, you have about 4 of them now in Nigeria and doing very well. But the one that is doing the best is the Rugby League, who went on to playing in the World Rugby Series in Canada and lost in the finals. You know, so they actually put Nigeria on the world map in terms of the overall game. Now, for the Rugby Union, which is the one we play as well, the National Sports Festival is this year in Enugu in November. Now, rugby is an Olympic sport. We are supposed to be in there as one of the traditional sports to be featured, not as optional sports. And we're really, really appealing to the National Sports Commission to please consider rugby to be one of the, you know, the main events like football, basketball, volleyball, you know, other team sports which are Olympic sports. Now, that was the criteria to which those sports were selected in 2009 after the Qatar Games. By then, rugby was not an Olympic sport. Rugby became an Olympic sport in 2016, the Rio Olympics. And ever since then, rugby is in the Olympics. And we should automatically be brought into the National Sports Festival because that is the only way to which you can help to develop the sport. If the states are not competing in it, you can't get to develop team sports in the country, you know, because it is actually the states. And now local governments are being given funds in that direction. But once it is not in a national event, like the National Sports Festival, which is our own Olympics, then we probably won't be able to, you know, grow as it is expected here in Nigeria.
All right. Ntesa Williams, thank you very much. Good perspective in all you've given us, especially what's happening in the world of rugby and insight towards the excitement of the Nations Cup and many predicting Nigeria to go all the way to win it. Thank you for being a part of the show.
You're welcome, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, guys, we've heard Ntesa Williams representing a generality of Nigerians talking about a lot that's happened there. Well, time is far gone, I know, but we have to find a word to talk about all we have to talk about. Well, we're going straight to football story from an African point of view, and maybe we get up close with the world of basketball and tennis at the end of it. So, Toby David, I'll start with you now. Let's not go to African yet, but let's move to what's happening in Ligue 1. Terry Murphy has come out and wants to terminate his contract, needs to terminate his contract after that incident where the fans came on him. I remember we talked about it on the show, and such a difficult situation for them, but what's really happening with Terry Murphy?
Well, I think it's very sad at the moment because since that incident happened, you know, the Nigerian international hasn't played for OGC Nice. And then many would also look at the very fact that this is actually not the first time we've had players in France and even in Italy also being dragged of African descent, especially when, of course, a team is not doing well. Those African players seems to be scapegoated. And I think that's what, you know, Terry Murphy and the Ivorian international who plays for OGC Nice are facing at the moment. So he's not just the only person. Of course, his fellow, you know, African counterpart has also, you know, asked, you know, OGC Nice to terminate his contract. And it's quite saddening at the moment.
Jeremy Borger.
Yeah, Jeremy Borger. It's quite saddening at the moment because I do not know where next for, you know, the man Terry Murphy. But I think to a large extent, it is also quite a big signal that, you know, fans of these football clubs should, as a matter of fact, of course, also know that these African players are basically one of the you know, star players in that particular football club. I mean, you can't actually do without them. If you look at the level of contribution of you know, Jeremy Borger and of course the man Terry Murphy, to a large extent, it has taken them so far where they are at the moment. So for the man Terry Murphy, I think it's a good move for me because this will actually open doors for other club sides to come get the man as a free agent, and from there the man enjoys his football and leaves the French club side. And I think at the moment it would actually serve as deterrent to other club sides and fans as well.
Well, funny Taylor, deserving the guy gets to leave the club. I'm talking about Borger and Terry Murphy in this regard. Well, that game was a game against Lawrence in November last year. Ended 3-1 the loss, but the fans came after him. In recent times, we really look at European football and say, oh, it's all good. But at this point, Fadiel, he gets to leave the club because it seems like the fans there are not with good heads.
Well, I'm very surprised that happened in the French league because the French league has a little bit of some tolerance for these issues.
Yeah, black
We've not really
players.
seen it there. And look at the national
But
team.
you think it's a factor of black players in there, or it's just a
I don't think
factor of
it's a
them
factor of black players.
scapegoating
They were
the few
being
players?
scapegoated.
Yeah.
I don't think it has to do with their race.
And the reason, I think the reason was because the reason was
he went and talked to a player.
yeah,
That's
absolutely,
absolutely.
yeah.
So at the end of the match, he was smiling with
so
the
it wasn't necessarily a case of racism. It's just intolerant in football, thinking that you should win at all costs. You should not participate with another player at the other side of the court. Doesn't make any sense.
My biggest bane of this issue is that these fans came to the training session the next day. How open is the stadium or the training facility? I'm just imagining, watching Manchester United training at Carrington, and you see thousands of fans pouring into it. Doesn't happen anywhere because you need to have proper security and all of that. So it was very surprising. It was almost as if there was it's an inside job. Someone let them in because it was during the training. Jeremy Boga and Terry Murphy were attacked during training. I saw the footage of that. It was very, very. I couldn't even believe my eyes. You had to see the players scampering in all directions. Someone even joked and said, "I wish Bright Samuel was there. Maybe we would have had another, episode of him fighting the fans." But at the end of it, I think it's not good for Terry Murphy. The Ineos-led board have to let this man leave. He says, "I want to leave. I don't want to play for you guys anymore. You failed me, so I have to leave." I think it's all about payments now because terminating contract has to do with payment and all that.
Yes, absolutely.
So when you
a long-term deal,
exactly,
especially. They have to come into a certain level of
exactly.
agreement for a player to terminate his contract. Well, let's move on and talk about the Flying Eagles winger in this round. We're talking about Sani Suleiman. Well, and now when you talk about Sani Suleiman, before it was an experience from home here, now moving forward, Aqua United. We're talking about being touted a permanent transfer to German outfit RB Leipzig. And Suleiman is being age of 19. Big clubs coming for him. He's been a superstar anyway. No matter how I want to look at it from home, and seem to be progressing.
The question is he really 19? I've watched Sani Suleiman. He's a good player. Well, let's leave the age.
Well, you don't know. Well, that's what they tell us, so you can't say anyway.
Well, I'm excited, especially going to
RB
Leipzig.
He's young.
Yeah, he's young. He's young, but he's not 19. Please, let's be real with ourselves. I think going to RB Leipzig.
How sure are you?
Mr. Blyden, let's
move past you've got his best certificate.
Let's move past
Are you the father?
Let's move past it.
He
has been playing in the Nigerian league for over 5 years now in some capacity.
5 years?
Yes. Before he came to Aqua United, he was playing for academies for like 3 years. He came to Aqua United and he's still 19.
Played half season.
Yes.
Academy, you can play for academy at the age of 14.
Played half season.
Let's leave the age.
I love what's some of that.
Let's leave the age.
He played at the under-20 World Cup, the Flying Eagles, just recently last year. They were MRI scans before that tournament.
Oh, please.
We don't have to talk about it.
Okay.
Well, let's talk about RB
I was trying to clear that
Okay.
because you can't see it on national TV and say, it's not his age. How sure are you?
Absolutely.
We've seen these players come out to say that time and time again that they have this.
Let's just move on so you don't get sick. I wouldn't support, I wouldn't help you in it.
Let's go to RB Leipzig. I think it's a very good club for young talent. We've seen lots of young talent come through the ranks at RB Leipzig, and I'm very excited that Sani Suleiman. I've talked about it. We've seen Nigerian players moving to clubs where you're not going to be playing. So RB Leipzig for me gives him a route to getting to Europe top 5 leagues, playing on there. We've seen Victor Boniface from Union St. Gilloise. Nobody expected him to play for Bayer Leverkusen when he started playing. So I think RB Leipzig is a good choice for Sani Suleiman.
Talking about RB Leipzig being a good choice for Sani Suleiman, let's move ahead in La Liga. A news broke yesterday, one that interested a lot of people, especially prophets of doom, those who thought it was going to happen. And for all that, it was a big surprise because at the timing where we thought it was going to happen, it never happened. After the Super Cup Hispana, we had to see it happen. Xavi Alonso leaving Real Madrid, ending his contract with Real Madrid, and Arbeloa named the new maker of it. Surprising it happened at this time?
I think it's surprising for me because, there was a time where Real Madrid were actually, suffering with Xabi Alonso. That was last year, I think. November last year.
They lost to Manchester City.
That sequence where they lost to, Manchester City. Lost the whole number of games in that sequence.
Before that game, he was given just that game
to
redeem himself.
But actually went stretched, and of course, one game thereafter. He was actually winning matches, not until he met Barcelona in the finals and then fumbled. And I think that actually brought memories of what happened last season, or last year rather, up until now. And many also looking at the level of performance of Real Madrid. If you could recall, prior to this game, I mentioned the very fact that, yes, Real Madrid are actually winning games in recent times. But if you look at Real Madrid and the way they've actually played, most of those games, they do not win it convincingly. They win by 1 goal margin. and of course a few of them. So I think that of course raised questions as regards Xabi Alonso's capacity as a Real Madrid boss and how he really wants to use these players going even forward. So the club authorities have actually looked at it and then feel that Xabi Alonso is not the man for this job. And now they said, okay, you can actually leave. It's quite saddening because the man, just barely a few months after being appointed, now leaving the side as a young coach.
Let's look at something now. What could be the problem for Xabi Alonso? We saw previously at the Bayer Leverkusen, went unbeaten throughout the season. Seemed like a special guy that's already played. He's a club legend of Real Madrid, played at Real Madrid. And many thought he's understand the setup of Real Madrid. Real Madrid is not about the coaches, it's about the personalities. And they always say you have to understand it from the board's point of view, comparatively to Barcelona. What do you think was his biggest challenge, not being able to be successful at Real Madrid, just as he was at Bayer Leverkusen?
I think it's easier said than done. Just like you said, everyone understands that when you go to Real Madrid, yes, you are the coach, but you have to manage the egos there because they're always having go to Real Madrid. Yes, you are the coach, but you have to manage the egos there because they're always having galacticos. But when you go there as the coach and you'd want to tell the player to do something, that's it. You'd forget that, oh, this Real Madrid, I should be able to let the players have their own way at time. Xabi Alonso came out, I think, 3 months ago to say the players shouldn't be given such power. He said that in the press conference after the Vinicius Junior issue.
Well, he was given the powers where he was playing at a club.
No, Xabi Alonso was not that kind of player who throws tantrums.
He was very calm.
He never came to
during his playing time. He was a calm player.
Vinicius Junior was sopped up and he slapped Xabi Alonso's hand.
But
That's what happened.
The question is
he was asked to apologize.
The question is how often was Xabi Alonso subbed off?
He was actually regular.
Especially as a big player, he was regular, mostly playing 90 minutes. So how often was he subbed off? That's another question.
I talked about it at the beginning of the season. I said Xabi Alonso would want to move past Vinicius Junior. He's not a businessman. He likes to dribble. And Xabi Alonso, look at the way he played at Bayer Leverkusen. He wants a player who can get the ball into the back of the net. I knew he was going to have problems with Vinicius Junior. But unfortunately for him, Vinicius Junior is a player's favorite in the dressing room. So he let that down. I think Xabi Alonso was not sacked for the results. It was his inability to manage the team.
Yeah, he brought in many also argue from another side, maybe from Vinicius Junior supporters, say he was divisive. It wasn't just about Vinicius.
It was favoritism.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Favoring other players ahead of the others.
Kylian Mbappe seemed like the favorite.
Absolutely.
Everyone talked about it, the golden egg. Yeah. And beyond Kylian Mbappe, you're talking about Rodrigo Gauss.
Yeah.
Immediately Rodrigo became
the Turkish
favored other goaler immediately. Benched Rodrigo Gauss.
Absolutely.
And I think that could have been the first part of it and brought Jude Bellingham into the deep, into the middle, and all of that chaos at Real Madrid. Yeah. Well, most often than not, it's going to happen like that. When you go to a big man place, behave like the big man. That's basically what we can advise. But what next for him could be what to talk about. But we're going to talk about it and see how that happens for him.
Even
we know. But is it going to be a top tier club? Because that's always going to be a concern.
It can't go back to Bayer Leverkusen.
And Manchester United are already coaching them.
Top tier club. Top tier club. You're mentioning Manchester United this year. So anyway, let's move on at Paris Saint-Germain. Well, the conversation is that they were starting the French Cup by neighbors, Paris FC. Well, David, you watched the game. Big concern for them now, especially recent times. We've talked about the game against Olympique Marseille, how they did. A struggle for Paris Saint-Germain. It doesn't seem like that same team we saw last season. They lost 1-0.
I do not know how things can actually change quite quickly for UEFA Champions League holders, because I look at them, they were arguably the best side in Champions League last season, and just suddenly things changed. I watched the game yesterday and I looked at the very fact that I know the likes of Ousmane Dembele came off the bench, but you also saw a very few of those players who are regulars. The likes of Desire Doye started the game. You want to talk about, of course, a whole lot of them. Vivas Kvaratskhelia also started this particular game.
Everyone will have the answers to what the problem is.
I think it's an entire, setup now for Paris Saint-Germain, because even in the traditional league, in their traditional league, Lens are actually top of the French league on.
That's what we're saying. So I've seen that restraint from them.
Yeah.
Not flamboyant the way they were
Absolutely.
It seemed like a team that could be beaten anytime. Most often than not, in football, they say there's a cycle, a time where you rise and you get to a peak performance point and begin to decline. And for now, we begin to see that decline from Paris Saint-Germain. Also, rumors about Luis Enrique leaving the side.
I think the man's heart is not in the team anymore. Last season, we saw how passionate he was on the pitch, back side of the pitch. He was always dishing those instructions. But now he wants Luis Enrique. He's constantly on the bench, just looking at the screen. I wonder, is his heart somewhere else? With rumors that Pep Guardiola might be leaving Manchester City, and Luis Enrique likes a team like that who would support him. Go out there, get players. You don't want someone to play. You ship the person out too. I would just say Luis Enrique might just be leaving the team, but that does not excuse the poor performance. I think we've not talked about Paris Saint-Germain enough. They've been very poor this season. They've lost already more games than they did the entirety of last season and halfway through the season. So I think it's very poor for Paris Saint-Germain. I don't know what's going to happen for them in the future, in coming days, but let's hope it gets better.
Because the question would always be the same kind of players, same coach, but not getting the same results. Lost no one. A decent side after the likes of Ousmane Dembele winning the Ballon d'Or. We thought that it's going to be also so flamboyant with the side and doing so well. It's not adding up for them. Well, let's go to the English side. We're talking about the FA Cup that took place. Liverpool taking on their opening band in this one. Well, when you talk about this one, you talk about interest. Early part of the game is similar like the was for Liverpool was starting out when Dominic Szoboszlai let that ball for the opening to score. Many wonder what could happen in the 9 minutes, but at the end of it, it's basically what it is. Liverpool went all the way to David and hit the number, a 4 massive one. I was listening to it when they were talking on the sports wrap-up. He said, despite the numbers, the performance didn't still add up well.
Yeah, of course. You look at the last, few games Liverpool have won. They haven't also been convincing, and those are questions for Coach Arne Slot, because you tend to meet a team that is more structured. Then you're definitely, bound to lose such games. Dominic Szoboszlai scored, but was, of course, also had some schoolboy errors. Had a back heel that led to the goal scored by Barnsley. Also, committed, a penalty call that the Barnsley coach still feels he should have been awarded if we had the video assistant referee in playing that particular game. So these are still concerns for Coach Arne Slot and, of course, Liverpool team. That are not still that Liverpool team we saw last season. And if they continue this way, then, of course, fighting for UEFA Champions League spots will be very difficult until the end of the season.
It will be difficult until the end of the season, moving to the 4th round of the FA Cup, that comes up by February. Well, time to really talk about others, but quickly, let's move to Serie A. Juventus trash Cremonese 5-0 to climb into a 3rd place. But unfortunately, we've not really been talking about Serie A lot, but what's really happening there? Juventus giving good performance and account for themselves.
I think the top 6 teams in the Serie A are really giving a good account of themselves. Talking about Inter Milan, Napoli, talking about AC Milan this season. I wrote AC Milan off completely, but Massimiliano Allegri shows it's not finished. I thought it was a finished manager.
Some say it's Luka Modric.
Oh, come on, look at Modric.
Pulisic is the second highest goal scorer in the Italian league.
But you can't take anything away from the grandfather that's doing the job, football grandfather, doing the job at AC Milan. Except you're not following proceedings.
For Juventus, let's go to Juventus now. For Juventus, I think it's been about, what's his name, Luciano Spalletti. A lot of people thought this man, after leaving Napoli, after winning the title, went to Italy, and the national team couldn't really get the job done. Now back to league football, and he's getting Juventus back there. It's been a long time you see Juventus win in such convincing manner. Yes, they've been winning games, but not in such convincing manner. So you'd say maybe we'll start seeing Juventus being back to that status of the old ladies, dominating European football as well.
Dominating European football as well. We'll try to have it quickly, 1 minute in this one, and before you get to talk about our talking point, would be that Pep Guardiola says Carabao Cup win would help City catch Arsenal. How discussed?
Well, of course, the Carabao Cup final are usually played in between season. It will be played months before the Premier League even ends. So he feels if they can get, the Carabao Cup, title, or cup rather, then it could also, spark a whole lot of reaction by
belief.
Yeah, by the Manchester City players to, contend for the Premier League title up until the end of the season. It's very true for me, because I think one step and then you take on silverware, it could also propel you for another. But
the other conversation is Carabao Cup gets towards the end of the season, isn't it?
No, Carabao Cup are played. The finals are usually played in between seasons. So it's played months before even the Premier League season ends.
What he's saying is, you become title holders.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you have a bragging rights.
You have bragging rights, and you've also got the confidence. Absolutely.
Interesting. We got to see how that happens for them, knowing fully well the difficulties of chasing Arsenal these days. They've not been pretty convincing. Talking about Manchester City, even when Arsenal dropped point, we thought they were closing the gap to 2 points. They fought at their lines in back-to-back games. A multiplicity of games taking place today in the FA Cup. It would be Newcastle United against City. Big game for them. Newcastle, so it's always going to be a tough team for City, yeah.
So I think it doesn't get bigger than this. And it's a semi-final. Manchester City against club, the cup holders. It's going to be very difficult for Manchester City. But in recent times, Newcastle started the season quite slowly, but they are back in the top 5 of the table. I looked at the table. I was asking myself, how did they get here?
Well, the table this is, so once in a while, Manchester United got into the back of it. Chelsea, Chelsea are up and down.
In their last 5 games.
Well,
in the Premier
you never can tell what happens. The next 3 games, they drop 2 points and they're back out of it. But good for Newcastle United as West Ham are reluctant to sell Paqueta amid interest. Why are they reluctant? Well, the question we cannot answer.
To go back to Brazil, I'm surprised.
Well,
some say he's running away from the FA based on the betting charges.
But I thought it was cleared of it.
No,
had a second one.
Yeah,
had a second one.
He said, I've had enough. Let me go back to Brazil.
Maybe the man is really into it anyway. You never can tell. We know our Sports Bentaco saying is having hamstring operation. But we see what happens. You can only wish him the best of fortunes. As Spurs are set to bid Villa to £35 million. Gallagher. It will be a conversation. Gallagher at Atletico Madrid. Well, basically what it is, multiplicity of conversation in the world of tennis had taken place. We've not been able to touch bulk of it, but what we're talking about, the likes of Musetti cracking the top 5 as Bublik moves into the top 10 in the world of tennis, and Kokinaki is also a battling pain and rallies past quarter for emotional Adelaide win. Is that conversation? What big stories are we missing out? Maybe in the world of NBA, the likes of Utah Jazz had to bounce back after a 55-point loss and beat Cavaliers at 123-112, similar to Pacers, and nipping the Celtics 98-96 in the first 3-game win streak of the season as Maxey scores 33 as 76ers use 80-point first half to beat Raptors 115-102. Well, it's a ball we can take when it has to do with Sports Central this morning. Thank you for being a part of it. Thank you, guys. Somewhat, somehow, the order today was quite different, but it is what it is. Exciting. And big thank you to Intensa Williams for joining. My name is Vladimir Rukem, and we bounce. Tomorrow is another day.